Hey for one, Eggman here with another video, and it's the first year anniversary of the Fusion World card game, and to celebrate that, we do have this huge event on the online client for it, which I do think it's the best time as of right now to get on into this card game. There's a lot of free packs, a lot of free gems. You get a secret rare wild card, which is unheard of for this game to be able to get any secret rare that you want, which is really nice. But also they do have notably these limited 5 pre-built decks based on all of the new leaders from the FB05 set. So in this video, I do want to kind of go over my thoughts on which one is objectively the best one to get, but then also we're going to go over the cards you get and ways to upgrade them on kind of a budget for anyone who's kind of a newer player trying to figure out this game but wanting to also take it a little bit more seriously as well. So we are a pretty big Fusion World channel, if you guys don't know. If you guys are new, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of content on this channel. I have a website called Eggman Events, which does have a lot of tournament data and my own deck lists as well, so you can check that out in the description. And then also a couple hours of this video being live, we will be doing our first FB05 live stream with the online client. It's going to be here on YouTube as well as on Twitch, and it will be re-uploaded here on YouTube so you guys can watch it after the fact too. So make sure to check it out. We're going to open a lot of packs. We've got 250 tickets, should be closer to 300 with my gems as well, and again should be a really good time. But jumping on into this, and I want to be just super straightforward at the front. I think the best decks from this are the blue Vegito, the green Son Goku, as well as the yellow Janemba. Those are the 3 best leaders of these 5 right now. And then also just the decks that they have and the cards you get out of these decks I think are very strong in their own way. So you should likely get one of these 3. I don't think that the red one or the black one are worth it. You can still upgrade these decks pretty cheaply even without buying these decks, but like the biggest thing for the red one, I think the deck is fine, but you only get 2 super rares, which I think is kind of a bad deal if I'm being honest. Every other deck gets 3, and you don't even get your Glorio, which Glorio is the most important super rare for this deck, and so not being able to get access to that from this I think is a bit of a miss for the deck. And just in general, I think red, you can make it pretty cheap as an aggressive deck without needing to get a bunch of fancy cards, so I think that is one of the issues with this one. But then I honestly, this is just more of a personal thing for me. I just don't think Gogeta is super good compared to other decks in this meta, but you can definitely still get this. I do think the super rares you get from it are nice, but generally speaking, I think the blue, green, and yellow ones are still better. So the other thing I'm going to recommend is that if you guys are opening any amount of packs for the FB05 card set, do that first before you get these decks. Make sure you know what cards you get in these, and then also there could be a chance like, oh, you know, I want to play Vegito, but I ended up just getting all the pieces for it anyways, but I'm missing out on a couple green super rares, so I'm going to get the Goku deck instead or something like that. So last thing I'll say is that the green and yellow decks are pretty dependent on getting the secret rares that are out of FB05, and we'll mention that more when we go over this, but it could be another thing where you're like, well, I got 2 green secret rares for Son Goku, I'm going to use my wild card for a 3rd one, and then just means I should be playing green in the first place. So I think that's something that can impact which one you get. So if you're buying any amount of packs, do that first and then do your pre-built deck as well. So last thing I'll say is that these are pretty good deals, but they're also not like, I don't think you should stress it out too much if you get the green one and then you end up liking blue Vegito that much better. You don't get that many like exclusive super rares, so I don't think it's something to sweat. I think the biggest reason you should get it is that you need some of the older secret rare or super rares from this, which generally speaking, this is the best one of, I think, the super rare reprints that we get out of this, which is the yellow Son Goku. This is from FB02, which is a set that doesn't really have a lot of like open it's just kind of, you don't want to buy packs of FB02 generally. I don't think there's a lot of generic cards for that outside of this Son Goku for a lot of colors. This one having the Gotenks I think is fine. I think this is a fine card. Son Gohan Adolescence might be better, the new Vegito might be better, but this is a fine card. For green, this grade 8 Vegeta it's fine. It's not a bad card, but I don't like it for what the deck's trying to do. And then Gogeta, the grade 8 baby is fine as well, but if you are playing black, you're probably buying a lot of FB04 packs anyway, since baby is also really good, so I don't think it's as good, but it's something there. So that's kind of my overview. We're again going to go over each one of these decks. We're going to have it timestamped in the description if you just want to jump to one of them, but we're going to start off with the red Son Goku Mini. All right, and so here is the 50 cards that you get from the Son Goku Mini Daima deck. I will say that the super rares from the Son Goku Mini Daima, this card's pretty usable, and I think it's a staple for the deck. And then the Pansy, I think this card's actually pretty good too. I thought it was like a little bit weak since I felt like the on KO effect. There's a lot of ways and decks that can bypass this effect, but it's fine for what it is. Some decks just kind of have to like KO it and let you draw two, which is nice. But being able to just be, take a card from your life to your hand without having to attack is pretty good. Other than that, I think this deck is just okay. It's pretty. I don't know why we didn't get any reprint super rares in this one. I feel like it's a little bit worse just because you get less super rares in it, but it's kind of what it is. But I do think Son Goku Mini can be a pretty okay deck in this format, and I think it can be one of the best decks on a budget, with the sense that you don't have to run any secret rares, and the super rares that you get are pretty easy to get, are pretty obtainable. So this is kind of the one deck that I built from it. The card that we are missing from this one, and you'll notice that all of these 5 decks are missing one of their, probably the most important super rare in a lot of cases, and definitely for this one we are missing our Glorio. So this card being able to make it our leader makes it a 35k double, and we're able to give the minus 5k to our opponent's leader, which means that we're able to go 35 twice into a 15k awakened leader most times. It's just very strong. It's just kind of the way we get a lot of value from this. So I will also say, if you want to upgrade this, one of the best ways to do so is with the Son Goku Mini Daima starter deck, which you can get on the online client too. Starter decks are generally pretty good for kind of starting into the game, because there are ways to convert the cards from them into main decks a lot of the time. And so the Son Goku Mini Daima leader, the fact that this is also named the same way means that you can branch into this leader too. It's pretty good, I think, in its own way too. We are able to get these 1-drop Son Goten Mini Daima cards, which the fact that it has Daima in its name is important. It also means that we can get this 5-drop Goku, which I really think this card is really good for the deck. You need to run it since it's kind of our end game. It is also Daima, so you can use your leader effect to bump it into a 45, and it has some removal, so I think it is really important for you. So this is the way that I built it. If you just get 2 versions of the starter deck, you can just play this pretty much with the card. If you get 2 starter decks and then the Son Goku Mini Daima pre-built deck, you can essentially build this as is, which is really nice. So if you want to play the game and you do have to get this Glorious Diamond. Don't forget, you do need to get as many of these as you want. But other than that, you're pretty set to go, I think, in their ways. So it's gonna, I don't know which one I like more from Son Goku Mini Daima, this one or the Star Deck one, as a leader for something that's as budget as this. If you don't have the Glorio Daima, it might be better to play the other Goku leader, but it's fine. This is just a fine deck. I just don't think you buy the pre-built unless you just happen to get all the other super rares and you're missing out on your red ones. But even the red ones we got are just okay, right? Like this is the reprint one, right? And this card is pretty good, and I know Beerus uses it too, but it's just a shame we don't get the Glorio. So like even like the other super rare, right? Like I feel like they just forgot to add it. It's the number 3. There's 3 super rares. Well, I don't know why they didn't just even add this one, even though this is the worst red one. It's something that we could have gotten. So I felt that was really peculiar not seeing that, but there it is. So red, I think this deck can be a good budget deck. I don't think you should buy the pre-built to be able to build this, because you're able to, I think, otherwise. But there it is for red. Next up, blue. So blue is the one of the ones I think you can convert into an actual deck in a lot of ways. As of this recording, I've been kind of having an issue deciding the best way to play blue in FB05. I think a lot of the cards that it has are very strong, but also very generic. I think the blue Vegito leader can do well. I think the blue Star Deck Vegeta leader can do well. I think the Zamasu Fuse leader can do well. And there's just a lot of ways to build these other decks. So, but the core of it kind of works for the Vegito leader a little bit more. And like as a deck to just buy and play immediately, this one is likely probably one of the better ones, because we do kind of have this plan and action that you can kind of work with as well. So the way that, and then like the super rares we get are the 2-drop Vegeta as well as the 3-drop Son Goku, which are really good super rares for, I think, the Vegito leader in general. I think generic super rare wise they're less good, but they're still playable cards, which is really nice. And then we do have like some additional kind of rares which are helpful. But just as like a deck that I would play, this is probably as like a pre-constructed deck all by itself, one of the better ones for it. And if you do want to upgrade it, some additional cards, I suggest one, Peel Off. This card is broken. Like, people are asking for this card to get banned pretty actively, so play it while you can. It's just a common from set 1, so it should be pretty easy to obtain. And we also do have an upgrade of adding 2 of the Vegito super rares. This is from FB05, but these are pretty good. The fact that it also can stun your opponent's 3 drops or lowers from attacking, I do think helps the deck as well, and it does get your tempo back. One of the more expensive cards is this Vegito from set 2. It's a secret rare. It's a little bit hard to pull because of that. If you want to use your wild card to get this Vegito, this has been one of the more generically good cards in the secret rare slot that exists. Most decks just say, you know what, I can play this 30k that attacks twice, and being able to remove one of our opponent's bodies is generally it's in a good spot. So I think that the card is good and helps out the deck a lot as well. If you don't have this, do not feel like you can't play this deck, and don't feel like you have to use your secret rare wild card to craft this, but it is good if you happen to have it for one reason or the other. So I think most decks that are blue are playing this card. So if you like blue in general, I don't think it's a bad craft with a secret rare wild card. So other than that, we are just bumping up a couple ratios, adding a 3rd copy of Vegeta and a 3rd copy of the Son Goku. I would say generally you'd want like 4 copies of this card and then 3 copies of this in like a true deck version of it, but like a 3 and 3 is fine. Being able to have this 2-drop Vegito as well. The fact that this just draws you 2 cards and can help you get into your combo a little bit easier, even if not like the turn you play it, is really nice. And then other than that, it's kind of just like the deck and main cards that we get anyways. So lastly, I'll say Savior of the World is pretty broken. You can use it with the 1-drop Peel Off as well, and you get some really good recursion with that too, and like defensive power. And then the last card I'll say, we have this 2-drop Videl. This is another super rare. I didn't add it to this deck because I didn't want to add too much for it, but this would probably be the next card you invest either time or money wise to try to get, just so since it does recycle a lot of your Earthlings, which is really nice. There can be some combos where you can use it to get back your Fortune Teller Baba, which is able to get back your Vegeta, which is able to get back your Goku, and like the recursion is pretty heavy in its own way, so I think that's strong. And then last card is there's a Son Gohan from set 3 as well, or sorry, from set 3 as well. This is generally like a better removal target than what Gotenks does, but it's like a little bit like less an archetype. But being able to bottom deck 3 costs or less from your opponent's board, as long as you have 7 or less cards in hand, is really nice. Gotenks is kind of more in the theme because it's pretty often a 35k, and the fact that you do put more cards into your drop as well, but it only bottom decks a 3 cost or less. But if you have like 8 cards in your hand, you can still do it. So in general, I think this is a pretty solid deck. I think this is one that you can probably build pretty easy, pretty cheaply, and has a lot of power in this meta, at least in these first couple days. So this is the build for the blue Vegito. Next up, we've got green Son Goku, and this is a deck that is, I think, a bit of a menace, potentially. It's one that I'm kind of pegging as like, oh, this is going to be a really strong deck in this meta when it's fully, if you have like the full build for it. So it's very aggressive. You kind of have this mentality where you try to just bully down your opponent, and it's kind of difficult to kind of get down to 0 life because you do have like this healing mechanic with your leader. You don't draw on attack, which is a little bit rough at times, but you are a 30k when you are attacking, and at the end of your turn, as long as you have 7 or less energy, you do get to heal 1 by discarding a card every turn. So because of that, I do think that you get a lot of recursion, and you do have this spot where your opponent just has a hard time actually getting you down to 0. So I think the starter deck is fine. I don't think this Grade 8 Vegeta is going to be in the main build for this deck, so it's a bit of a rough super rare. But if you are missing out on the 2-drop Son Gohan Youth, or the 3-drop Gohan or 2-drop Krillin, these are kind of important super rares for this deck, and so that might be worth getting this one as it is. So and then a constructed deck for this one, I will say that the Son Goku secret rare, it is needed for this deck. I do think that you can get away with playing 2. I generally play 3 copies in the builds that I've been playing, and 4 is not unheard of, but I do think that is, I don't think you have to play 4 copies of it if you don't have 4 of them. So 3, I think, is a sweet spot. If you have 2, I think you are still able to play it, but it is in a spot where you are seeing it a little bit less consistently. They also didn't include the Bulma Searcher rare, which I felt like was a bit of a miss because this is pretty integral for a deck that's mostly playing Planet Namek cards, but you do need 4 copies of this, and this can find your 7-drop Goku, so that is really important for you. Other than that, this is pretty close to the constructive build that I'm playing as is. The other super rares that we add are the Nappa. This is from FB04. I only have 2 copies in it, but it is pretty important since it does let you ramp a card. It's a 30k body that we're an aggressive deck, and we want to try to get down to 3 life as quick as possible. So this card really helps us do that. And then other than that, we do have like some recursion cards. We've got the Hercule as well as the Cell Jr. Both these let us draw cards from our drop, which is really nice. So Junior lets us get an extra card, which can be either Dr. Brief's spaceship or Destructo Disc, which can help us end games, or even the full power. And then the Hercule lets us get a 2 Earthlings with cost of 1 or less if we have 6 or more energy when we play it. So that can be the Chaozu, which means we can stun a card for an extra turn, which is really nice. It can be the Bulma, it can be the other Bulma, or it can also be the Destructo Disc once again, which is one of our better finishers. And being able to give something plus 20k and critical means your opponent's generally just going to have to take it, or they lose a card in hand, or they have to get a lot of combo power to get out of it. So last thing that I'll say is that again, like Son Goku, I don't think you need the full copies of it, but I do think it's important. But it's this promo card. You get this promo by leveling up in the rank season, or just like during the season for it. I think the proper number of these are 4. I'm just going to put 2 because I think level 2 of like the ranked like whatever thing, the way that you earn this is 2 copies of this, but you want to play 4 copies of it. I just have 4 4 of this one and 2 of this one. As you get more, you can swap them, but this card being able to help you awaken is fantastic. It's what the deck wants to do. It's a Planet Namek card, so you're able to find it more with the Bulma, and it just gets a lot of value for the deck too. So I think it's worth it. You should definitely play it, and as you get more of them as you level up, you play it at 4 copies as well. So other than that, I think this deck is really good. It's very easy to convert this to a very explosive and successful deck. The only issue is that you do have to kind of depend on your secret rares, but if you open like 1 or 2 from the packs that you buy of FB05 and then you just use your wild card for this, I think this is a really easy deck for you to build and going to be very competitive in my own opinion. So there it is there. And then next up we've got Janemba, which this deck is pretty insane on a full budget build of it. And the issue I think for anyone trying to get into this one is that yellow's kind of tricky with the rarity of its cards, and I do think that the new Frieza, which we'll talk about in a minute, you need to play as many copies as you can for it. If you play that card on 4, you get to control the game very easily in a lot of matchups, and it's really important. And so if you don't see it on curve, it gets worse every turn you don't see it, unfortunately. But I think the constructed deck that they give you, though, is pretty competent in its own way. The only issue is that it's the yellow, like in this set, kind of is missing like a standard line of play, because like all these cards are just like willy-nilly yellow cards that kind of don't really have interactions. We have like this Jaguar Island stuff, which I don't think there's enough cards in the archetype to really, cement it. Like we do have this Bio Broly as like the top end, which is fine, but it's like not being able to search it. I think like the Island doesn't do a lot, right? Being able to play a Jaguar Island from our hand in rest mode doesn't do a lot. We have the Fierce Hyper Beam. This card's fine and does help us, but I also think like the Wicked Rampage, you need to play as many Janimbas as you can, and we're only playing 6 copies of it in this deck, so you're going to miss with this a lot from looking at the top 5. So I don't think this is good in itself. There might be some builds with it, but generally speaking, this Son Goku is really good. You always play this in yellow. Like it's the best generic 10k yellow card that exists in this game right now. So you will not be upset if you get 2 copies of it. I would almost argue saying that this starter deck is worth getting just because you get 2 copies of this Son Goku guaranteed in a set FB02, which generally is not very good for like randomly pulling packs from. So that's my opinion on it. So highly recommend, even just for this Goku, it is worth it if you're playing yellow in any capacity. So and this is the build that I have for the deck, is more of a budget build. Two Friezas is the absolute minimum you need for this deck, unfortunately, in my mind. So if you open up your pack to get 1 Frieza secret rare and you use your wild card for 1, you can play this deck. This deck gets exponentially better the more Friezas that you play, because this card, again, is a menace because it does have barrier and removal. It just works really, really well with this leader. So if you don't have any copies of this card, I think like at least this current build does not work. There might be builds of Janemba that don't revolve around 4-drop Frieza, but I think the best way to build it right now now is with it as well. So the other cards though for the deck I think are moderately cheap. We do have a good amount of rares for this one. We have this Janemba, which as far as I know we do get this back with the level of rewards. The same thing as like the Green Goku, so you will be able to obtain this card eventually, and you will probably want it at like 4 copies. You also can like use some upgrades from like the yellow star deck Frieza deck, so you get like the Sorbet, the 1-drop Frieza, as well as the 2-drop Frieza. All these cards are generically good cards, and kind of like the Frieza and the both of these Friezas are moderate staples for I think a lot of builds, which are really strong. And then lastly, we've got like the King Goma, which is a rare from FB04. This being able to awaken, but also attack twice as a 20k in 1 turn. That kind of starts adding up, but also means you can attack with it, have it standing. And then if you kind of keep it so your opponent has to attack you every time, I think that's very strong in its own way. So Janemba as a, fully constructed deck is kind of speculated to be one of, if not the strongest deck in this format. It plays pretty uniquely, and it does have kind of this obnoxious control kind of aspect where you gain just a lot of value. You make it difficult for your opponent to really do anything against you, and you have a lot of ways to kind of lock down or just remove cards in general. So if you like that kind of deck, I think this is worth it, again, just for the Son Goku because of that, and I think it's just really strong in its own way. So lastly, we've got the Gogeta here, and this Gogeta, again, I don't really love this deck even as a constructed deck right now. That might change as the meta goes on, but I don't think it's probably like the second to last one. I think you still buy this one if you need like the grade 8 baby super rare, but like other than that, this deck is just okay in its even in full form for it. So this is the build that I have. It's fine. I wouldn't say that this is a super great build, but it's probably the best you can do if you want to play budget. I think there might be ways that this deck gets better as time goes on, but for right now, it's just okay. So I do think you need 4 copies of PyCon, just be able to get that additional draw in its own way, and helps you there. You also might need like the 1-drop Kakarot to be able to help facilitate that, because like this card just feels so weak to me. Like, sure, you get a draw when attacking, but it has no counter. The fact that you have to have an energy marker for its effect to work, so if you don't, you feel bad about it. And then also, it only looks top 2 for the Another World type. And you don't, there's not that many with that tag. It's a new tag for this set, and there's not a lot of great cards with it. You can use it to find Grand Kai, so being able to find a super combo is nice. And our top end is usually this 5-drop Son Goku, which is fine too. But generally speaking, I think this deck is just okay for what it is, especially since like I have to keep telling people, you don't draw when this card flips over. You just flip this card over, and that's it. There's no things, and then on the backside, you're just a 20k attacker, which you've seen like most other decks in this format, at least the blue Vegito and the green Son Goku. Both those become 30ks and 40ks respectively when attacking. So and which kind of facilitates their kind of different awakening condition. So this one just being able to say, oh, I'm a 20k and I get to add 1 marker, it just feels kind of weak in its own way. So I don't know. I think maybe it's to say like, oh, well, if they awaken on 3, they can use a marker, and then they can use the marker afterwards. You can kind of ramp with it, but like it's just okay, I think. So the other thing I'll say is that black has like one of the best secret rares in the game in the Son Goku GT, just because of just how good this card is. You kind of need like 3 or 4 copies of it in most black decks, and it's from FB03. It's hard to pull, it's hard to obtain, and because of that, it's just hard to recommend black if you don't have this card, which just stinks, I think, in its own way, based on kind of the crafting system and how that works in this game, which I've talked about in a lot of other videos, and I'll maybe talk about on my live streams in the future, but I won't kind of elaborate in this one. But I don't know. I don't think this one's really good. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think like the main constructed build of it is good. I don't think the super rare is kind of worth it either, but there it is. So that's all I've kind of want to talk about this, and let's kind of wrap it up. All right, and to kind of wrap this one up, because I know by statistics a lot of you guys just jump to this part of the video anyways, I think that the best deck for you guys to pick up is the yellow Janemba. This deck just has the best super rare reprint, which is this Son Goku. It's just very strong and very generic, and one of the best yellow super rares, if not the best generic one in the game right now. I think the second best one is either Vegito or Son Goku. These two are pretty close, and just kind of depends on what you need. I think like the reprint super rare from Gotenks is like slightly better, so it's probably like blue Vegito and then green Son Goku, but I don't think you can go wrong with any one of these three. Son Goku Mini is probably the worst one. I really don't recommend getting this one at all. And I also think like the Gogeta is just kind of mid, unless like you need like 2 more copies of Grade 8 Baby. I likely wouldn't recommend getting this one either. It's just not worth it from the cards that you get. So in general, again, Janemba probably the best one, Vegito second best one, 3-drop. The third best one is Son Goku. Do not get the red and black ones. I don't think they're worth it in their own ways. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of live streaming with the new update of FB05, a lot of gameplay, a lot of testing, a lot of deck building, and I'm really looking forward to it. So again, make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.